Hello, this is Dr. Shiny. I have a tarot reading this is for Taurus for the month of April. This is going to be a general reading. I am considering whether or not I should go to doing a mid-month reading, like 2 readings a month, rather than just the one. So if you really prefer one way over the other, please let me know in the comments, and I'll try to accommodate as many people as I can. I'm going to go straight into your reading today. What I have for you for the current situation is the Five of Swords, and the Five of Swords can indicate a sort of conflict. It's not even necessarily between two people. It can be a conflict of thoughts inside your head, a sort of cognitive dissonance, that type of thing. But it also could very well be conflicts that are going on internally have a way of sort of manifesting themselves in the physical environment, manifesting themselves in tumultuous relationships with other people or arguments or things like that. So if you're seeing that happen in your situation, it's also happening internally. It's also happening within you. You have two ideas of morality or something that are at conflict a little bit, and you're feeding one of them more than the other, and that's what's causing you to feel this sort of tension. What's influencing you, or what's crossing you, is the Knight of Cups, and the Knights are all oriented with like fast movement, with spontaneity and a lack of hesitation, that sort of thing. So while all of them have like an inherently masculine aspect to them, the Knight is the most feminine of these, or I mean the Knight of Cups is the most feminine of the Knights, and you can see most of them are depicted riding like a horse. This one is actually on a fish in this artwork, and I really like that because it sort of describes how he is very concerned with getting where he wants to go, but he's doing it in such a way that he's sort of flowing with the water rather than trying to fight it. So this is like, it can feel almost manipulative, but it's not. That's not the best word for it. This is somebody who is capable of just sort of allowing other people to think and feel whatever they want to think and feel, as long as it is suiting them. You know what I mean? So you don't necessarily have to care about what everybody thinks about you. If they're talking about you, they're sort of giving you power. So there's two sides to everything. Not everybody has to love you or appreciate you, that kind of thing. So that's what's influencing you or crossing you, is that sort of energy or idea. And now it's interesting because your past is the Six of Wands and your future is the Queen of Wands. So first, let me briefly say the Six of Wands. You can see the figure. She's sort of dancing over these. Like, it looks like people are maybe like trying to get her with sticks or something on the bottom there, and she's kind of like, "I got this," and she's just dancing right over the top of it. So the energy that you've come from, the energy that got you sort of to where you are, is a little bit more of I'm a professional, like I got this, you guys don't even know, and so you're letting your vision carry you and take you by virtue of blocking other people out, right? And that's a good way to build up momentum, to get some motion going, to where you can just sort of ride the waves. You know what I mean? But where you're headed is a more advanced form, to where those people that are sort of out to get you, or to stop your vision from happening, you can begin to understand that what they're really asking you to do is look for a better version of that vision. So the best plan in the world could have two definitions. If you're a selfish person, the best plan in the world is the plan that brings you to the tippy tip top. You know what I mean? But a better plan would be a plan that brings you to the top while bringing other people up with you, or something to that effect. You see what I'm saying? So it's not, there comes a point to where you've got enough momentum going in your life that you don't have to just like not consider anyone else. You can temper it and bring it into a place to where dissenting attitudes can give you information. It can give you feedback on how something could improve, so or could be improved. You know what I mean? So if you have excess, finding ways to channel that excess into further growth can benefit more people than just you. You know, so that may be what you're being taught here. Because what I see in the future is the Queen of Wands, which again is a far more matured energy than the Six of Wands. The Six of Wands has like finally learned how to get around, how to actually make things happen. But the Queen of Wands is someone who has mastered this process to the point to where simply by doing what you're doing and keeping mental notes of like how you're influencing other people, you can create a better world around you. So people, if you show people through your happiness and your joy, you know, what being a good person does, what being a good person does in your life, how it makes you grow, and how it enables you to help other people around you. If you can show people that, then they start to want to become better. And somebody has to want to become better before they can be better. You know what I mean? It's like you can't force somebody to follow your vision of the future if they don't see the value in your vision of the future, you know. So you've got to influence others to want to be better by becoming better yourself, by growing yourself, and that kind of thing. The foundation for this situation is the King of Wands. So this indicates that you're being taught a lesson. So the King of Wands here is essentially trying to teach you the lesson of willpower, of using other people as instruments. So this is a necessary part of life. The absolute reverse of this would be the sort of like lone wolf mentality that you could do literally anything you wanted by yourself. And there's some value in utilizing that mindset in certain circumstances, but also if you make that your rule that you can never go back on, you're going to find that everybody needs help every now and then, that it's just part of life, that you're going to have to ask people for help, and you're going to have to utilize the structures that other people have created to be able to get where you're wanting to go. You know, like my dad, for example, always talked about how he thought it was almost a travesty that if he wanted to get on a horse and go across the country, it would be illegal for him to do that. He would not be able to cross public roads or private lands with that horse and get to another place on the earth that he wanted to be. So he feels, because he's paying attention to that aspect of like how the legal system works and how society works, he feels trapped by that. He feels like he doesn't have true freedom like he wants. And the reality is closer to the effect of he does have the the freedom to travel and move however he wants, but his vision for that freedom has to be altered to accommodate other people as well, to accommodate the fact that other people matter as well. So you can't be, you know, taking your horse through somebody's front lawn, you know, that kind of thing. So your freedom and your independence depends on other people having that freedom and independence as well, and you have to find a way to sort of mold those visions together. So the King of Wands is really trying to teach you through asserting his will on you. He's trying to teach you the attitude that you don't necessarily need to assert on other people yourself, but you need to be able to apply those principles to yourself to show other people how to do it, to influence them, that kind of thing. Your crowning thoughts, your higher thoughts, what's in your conscious mind is strength. So this is suggesting that, again, you are definitely holding on to the fact that you've learned some big lessons in your life, and those lessons have served you really well. So I don't want to make light of that. You are an accomplished person, and you have a reason to feel like your way of doing things, which has always previously worked for you, is a good thing. This is again just a process that's supposed to temper you. So in other words, if you get too hung up on one process, if you find that while nothing else has worked, you finally find something that works, and then you stick with that, sometimes sort of the love of that method that is created in you because of how well it's worked for you makes you cling to it. It makes you sort of like get stuck in the mode that you're in, and you're forgetting that even though the mode you were in before you learned all this new stuff wasn't serving you at that time, it can serve you. Wisdom is about knowing how to flip-flop between those mental states, to know when it's time to be really meticulous and perfect, and to know also when it's time to like let your guard down and be vulnerable and that kind of thing. Wisdom is very much a game of manipulating those variables and paying attention to your environment, awareness. You know what I mean? It's not about there's one right way to do things. It's about, if you're going to do it, be mindful about what's going on around you, that kind of thing. And the strength card represents a power of sort of holding the monsters at bay by gaining allies, you know what I mean? By using your ability to understand another person's psyche to sort of create a safe space for them where they can open up to you. And as the result of that process, out of thanks, they provide you with support. They believe that you're a good person. They have your back when you do find conflict with forces that come, against you. You'll have good, strong sources of support around you because you've been a good person with the methods that you've used, and you've just ignored people who don't deserve your time to a certain extent, Now, for your advice for the current situation, I have the Two of Wands, and the best way for me to describe the Two of Wands energy, it's somewhat childlike, but visionary childlike, you know what I mean? So when I was young, I wanted to be an astronaut. It was one of the first things that I wanted to do. But I have a grandmother who is, she's very worried. She's very concerned. Her way of showing affection is to worry, is to sort of all the time, every time she reads something in the paper, sees something on the news, she thinks about it, and she wants to call everybody that she loves and warn them about that. So she lives her life in a little bit of a darker energy or state, but she's doing it out of a profound love, and so it's like one of the most simultaneously beautiful and grotesque things in my life is the way that my grandmother cares and shows that she cares through this like intense concern, and it comes from, or well, I digress a little bit. I wanted to be the astronaut, and she, instead of supporting that idea, instead of, from a young age telling me, yeah, go do it, go study space and that kind of thing, she sort of wanted to pull me back from that. She said, well, if you're going to be an astronaut, they're going to have to put tubes down your throat, and the rocket shakes you really hard. She gave me these sort of like realistic visions about what my idea was actually going to take, you know what I mean? And because of that, while you still want that in the back of your head, you sort of push it down the priority list, and you sort of have this sense of, it's borderline depression, but not depression as in sadness, but just sort of numbness, to where you're realizing that nothing is going to really be as perfect as you ever envisioned. That like it doesn't matter what you wish for, some things are going to come along with that you didn't foresee. So at that point, you can slow down a little bit, and you can recognize that if you take caution and choose your steps wisely, you are going to get where you're going, where you want to go, a lot faster. That being impulsive about it, or you know, thinking or acting before thinking in this situation can, or acting even just on base instinct and feeling. Uh, it's good to be able to do that, to have that tool in your tool belt. But it can also prevent you from learning lessons that require a great deal of interaction and you know, melding of different wills and ideas, you know. So keep that in mind. Remain open, you know, and don't get discouraged just because you find out that your vision is going to take a long time to achieve or something like that. It's not worth giving up, you know. It may be worth tweaking or thinking, okay, well, if I am going to do this, there's got to be a more realistic way to achieve my goals, or whatever that is. The environment for you is the Queen of Cups. So this, I believe, is sort of the figure that the King of Wands is operating through. Okay, so this is who is teaching you how manipulating, or not manipulating, but utilizing others in your visions and goals, and utilizing your inspiration and your ability. The person that is teaching you this lesson is a person who is very in touch with her emotions. Or not necessarily even her emotions, but his emotions. This is a general reading, so it could be either or. But somebody is very aware of their emotions, and even if they seem to have like violent emotional eruptions, you'll find that they bounce back and cope with them in a rational way. So they may get extremely angry, but they're rational about that anger. There's a good reason for it. There's a lesson that they're teaching, or something like that. You know what I mean? So, like, a lot of the great Buddhist masters, Zen Buddhist masters, have been known to have like a horrible temper. But there are stories of like a teacher asks to be like woken up on a specific day at a specific time, and then he like wakes up and thinks that he's been woken up at the wrong hour, so he scolds the students, you know, he's like really angry. But then the student says, "But master, it's Saturday, it's supposed to be at this time on today." And he says, "Oh," and he's fine. No more anger, no apology, nothing. He's just in control of his emotions. And that person, while it may seem doesn't have control, is showing you that they actually have an extremely high degree of control, because they can feel these intense emotions and immediately cut them off when they realize that they are no longer serving a purpose. And so it's okay to be upset. It's okay to get angry and have all these types of emotions, or to come down on another individual. It's not okay for you to be controlled by those emotions to the point where they carry you off without your power anymore. You know, it's meant to be a compass, not necessarily a steering wheel, if you know what I mean by that analogy. It's or your emotions are. They're supposed to guide you in the direction that you're supposed to go. If you feel really angry and confrontational, then something needs to be said. It doesn't mean that you need to drill them into the ground, but it means that you need to stick up for yourself, you know? So learning how to take these extremely intense emotions and bottle them down to a point to where they're succinct. Not bottle them up and not keep them inside, but bring them down to a point where your message is succinct and purposeful and intentional. Then sending it, that's sort of the goal. That's what you're trying to be, that's what you have to do in order to get your message across, to influence people. Because if you seem shaken up or too emotionally involved, nobody takes you seriously, because they're not taking it as seriously as you are, you know? So that's just the general way to get through this. Your fears card is the Ten of Cups. And this is kind of an interesting one, because this involves celebration and achievement and completion. And this being in your fears card, it's the closest that I can come to is that what's happening is you are afraid to recognize how good the situation that you're in actually is, how healthy it is for your development or your growth or something like that. And see, that's a big thing with conflict, with especially creative conflicts. Sometimes you can feel just squashed, you can feel like you're not being allowed to shine or that type of thing. But in reality, sometimes what's happening is the other person has to give you a little bit of like tough love. They have to hurt you and know that they're hurting you, so that they can sort of teach you a lesson. It's almost like, you know, when a parent spanks their child, they know that they're inflicting a degree of pain, but they also know that the pain won't be too much for them to bear, and that they will be a better person in the long run for it. Now, there are versions of this where a parent doesn't understand this process, doesn't understand how to utilize punishment to teach a lesson, and instead they just utilize punishment and spanking as effectively a form of revenge. And this would be just revenge essentially for not obeying the parent, not learning the lesson in the way that the parent asks the student to learn it, right? So you possibly have a little bit of shell shock from being punished yourself or something like that. But what is happening here is that everything is better than you think it is, than you imagine that it is. You're sort of you have a lot to learn in this situation if you can avoid taking it too personally, right? That's what you're going for. Now, for the overall situation, you have the Justice card. And this is indicating that what's happening is sort of the result of karmic cycles. So it's saying that you shouldn't really feel good or bad for other people in this situation. This is a time for you to like turn inward and think about how things are becoming better or worse for you. And you have to be careful not to fool yourself in this type of self-reflection, because if you get involved with like tying other people's free will into your happiness, you're always going to be disappointed, right? You're always going to be disappointed. You have to find a way to find your inner happiness and peace that will stand regardless of what anybody else does, you know? And once you can get to that point, you can start to recognize that things happen to people around you because they should happen, because they need to happen, because they ought to happen. And for you to get broken up inside and sort of feel guilty or ashamed or caught up in all these things is counterproductive, because it's bringing you down, and what they need is for you to be strong. They need to see you happy. They need to see you, despite all the attacks and all the bad thing, rising above that and becoming you know, what you really deserve to be, which is happy and successful, you know. So don't block yourself from that happiness and success because you feel like you're like taking something from someone else, or that you've had to sort of sometimes walk over people to get there. We've all done it. We've all done it without even knowing that we've done it, and it makes us feel bad, but they were given a lesson to learn from your transgressions, and so you can forgive yourself for it. And if you find that it's necessary for you to ask forgiveness for somebody in the past who you've done something to, then do it, if you find that it's necessary. But everybody's debts are sort of already paid. When you did something to somebody, you taught them a valuable lesson. You know, even if you stole from them, you taught them to be a little bit better stewards over their things. So, you know, you taught them to be more vigilant. And so you did them a service in a way. That's not a good enough reason to go out and do it again, but it is a good enough reason to forgive yourself. And I hope you really understand what I mean by that. But this one's running long, so I'm going to have to go ahead and cut that off here. If you have any questions or comments, please leave me a message in the comments section, and I will try to get back to it. Very good reading. I hope to see you guys again next month, and let me know what you think about doing 2 readings instead of 1. All right, have a good one. Bye-bye.